Episode of the Stay Sub podcast. I'm your host, Brant Freeman. We're in the middle of crossover season right now, as Bobcat basketball is still very much in the thick of their season. In fact, right now making that final push towards the upcoming Sun Belt Conference tournament. Texas State softball and baseball have both started up. In fact, our guests over the past couple of weeks have been student athletes from those two respective sports. In fact, last week it was Cam Bush for the Bobcat baseball team, which swept its opening weekend series against Youngstown State. But another sport in full swing right now is Texas State tennis. It's actually a sport we have not yet to cover on the State Sub podcast. So the honor of being the first ever tennis student athlete to join us on State Sub is Emily Niers. She is a sophomore out of Calgary in her second year now with the program. She joins us now on the podcast. Emily, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Doing good, Emily. Thank you so much for joining us. Excited to finally get a chance to talk some Texas State tennis.
Yeah.
I look at what you've done so far. I'll start with the team, and the team's playing really well. You've won 4 in a row, out to a 4-2 record here in the spring/winter. You know, in a big matchup coming up against New Mexico State this weekend. You yourself, you're 3-3 in doubles, but it's worth noting that you're 2-0 and partnered up with Emma Clark, beg your pardon, when the two of you are in court 3, and you yourself are 3-3 in singles, but you were 2-0 this past weekend. So as you kind of look at the season so far, what have you liked about it?
Yeah, the season has been very good so far. I think we got a new grad student named Callie, and I think she's added a lot to our team. I think us as a team have just gotten so much closer as a team, and everyone bounces off each other and brings energy all the time, and we're able to have fun and be competitive at the same time. So I think that has really helped us get to where we are and have the winning streak that we are having. So yeah, I think so far it's been great, and I'm looking forward to see what we're going to do next.
You know, here at Texas State, there's so many great facilities that we have, right? You certainly look at the football stadium, baseball and softball, soccer, the outdoor sports, certainly Strand Arena where the basketball programs and volleyball play. The tennis complex, its location, is really cool because you're located near the river, just down the hill from one of the most historic buildings on campus in Old Main. Right next to Kirby Lane as well. Great place to get, to go get something to eat afterwards or before a game. So in terms of the facilities, what stands out the most about where you get to play?
I love the facilities. I love that they're on campus. That's very nice. I do love that we're very close to the river and to Kirby Lane. I love coffee, so I go there quite often for coffee. Yeah, I like that we have 10 courts and they're all in very good condition. We have a locker room, and we have indoor courts, which is very nice because what I've learned about Texas is that the weather is very up and down, very strange. So sometimes it could just start raining. So it's nice to have the indoor courts. And yeah, it's just a beautiful facility that I've enjoyed the past couple of years.
You mentioned how much you like coffee, and I've had a chance to talk to Kelly Dampus before, university president.
Yeah.
Of course, he too is from Canada, as you're from Calgary. I have to ask, and this is me being very naive about Canada and customs, but I hear about Tim Hortons. Okay. How big is? Just tell me, give me an idea. How big is that in Canada?
It's very big. Tim Hortons, I would say, is like the Dunkin' Donuts here. I'd say they're very comparable. I quite like Tim Hortons coffee. I think I like it more than Dunkin' Donuts. And it's kind of a cool, like, hockey Canada vibe kind of thing. So I think that's very cool. But yeah, it's pretty big down there.
All right. So besides, the coffee differences, it's certainly a lot different for you down here,
Mhm.
in Texas, especially kind of this area, South Central Texas, where it tends to get really hot in the summers. Our idea of winter is probably your idea of the summer up there in Canada,
Yeah.
where we freak out when it gets to be 30 degrees. But how have you enjoyed getting acclimated to Texas now that you've been here for a full year?
Um, I think I would say I'm fully acclimated now. I feel like honestly, I've become a bit of a wimp when it comes to the cold weather now because I feel like now when it's cold, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so cold. Where down there, I would be like, oh, this is nice. I remember showing up for one of my very first practices, and it was in January, and all the girls were wearing like snow jackets, sweatpants, and like earmuffs. And I came in and I had shorts and a hoodie on. And then they were all like found that crazy. And I mean, now I'm not used to the summer. I can say that. I don't think I'll ever get used to the 110 degrees. I'm still trying to get over from Celsius to Fahrenheit too, so that's a bit confusing. But I love the weather right now is beautiful. I love it right now. So I would say I'm very much acclimated to the weather.
People in Canada, those that I've talked to, of course, first and foremost, hockey is the national sport there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here in the States, we like just about everything. Maybe we don't like hockey as much as they do north of the border.
Yeah.
But the sport of tennis, I'm very curious, how big is it in Canada?
It's not very big. From where I'm from, at least, it wasn't very big. We had, I trained at an academy with probably 10 kids my age. And when we played tournaments, you would all play everyone. So you would be competing against them, but you would also be friends with them because it's a very small group. So I would say it's definitely bigger here than it was back home. And one of the bigger differences is that back home it's mainly indoor tennis, and out here it's all outdoors for the most part, except for the occasional rain. But over there we're indoors for 9 out of the 12 months of the year.
So then I have to ask, you've been playing since you were 9 years old, so where does your interest in tennis come from?
That's a very good question that honestly lots of people have asked me. When I was 6, I moved to my family and I moved to Denver, and I was there for 3 years. And I think that's when I started playing tennis. I played lots of other sports. I played soccer. I've done swimming. I've done gymnastics, which I was terrible at. Yeah, so I think my parents put me in a tennis program. They played a bit growing up, so they kind of knew their way around. And then I played it in Denver. Then we moved back to Calgary, and I fell in love with my coach and the girls that I played with, and that's kind of how it started.
What's funny? I was told a story that the first match you played, you were beaten in 2 sets, 6-0, 6-0. And when you're young, and you experience, disappointment like that, a lot of kids tend to say well, this isn't for me. I should try something else. You mentioned all the other sports that you had been a part of and tried, so it could have been very easy for you to put down the racket and just go, continue doing something else. But I understand that it was actually kind of a source of motivation for you. What was it about your introduction when it didn't go well that you kept wanting to keep trying at it?
Yeah, that was a tough introduction. I remember losing in about 30 minutes, where I would say a typical match lasts for at least an hour. I lost 6-0, 6-0. I remember crying with my coach, and I remember him telling me that his purpose was for me to fall in love with tennis and love with the sport. And I loved the competitiveness of it, and I love and hate the fact that it's an individual sport. It puts a lot of pressure on yourself, but I like that. And yeah, it was kind of just, I liked the the feeling you get, like the feeling, like they talk about runner's high. I feel like I get that with tennis when I play a long match and win or lose, but I played like the best that I could. And so that's kind of why I continued playing it.
You know, you mentioned the relationship you had with your coach. You're growing up. Your coach here, Kendall Brooks, her second year at Texas State, like it is for you. So, you know, kind of your journeys are running parallel with one another. She took over for the great Tori Plunkett, who'd been here for a long time. What have you gotten to enjoy playing for Coach Brooks?
Yeah, I love playing with Coach Brooks, or for Coach Brooks. She's actually my first female coach I've ever had. I've always had male coaches, so it was a bit of an adjustment, but I think she's played like the highest level out of all my coaches that I've had, so I really take her knowledge to heart because I know that it's coming from a great deal of experience. I love her doubles knowledge. She helps me. I was not a big doubles player, but now I've grown to love it, and she's helped me a lot with that. She's helped me develop my game style. I feel like I was a very aggressive player to start off with, which was good, but now I feel like I've gotten a good mix of being able to play my way, but then also being able to just grind out there. So, and she's always very positive, which I love. She lifts you up. She makes jokes. She plays around. She's serious when we need to be serious. But for the most part, I feel like I can just have an open conversation with her, and talking to her is just easy.
And you mentioned how, you know, she's really helped you along with doubles. And as I brought up earlier in the podcast with Emma Carr, the two of you, 2-0 in the season, playing on court 3. What's the chemistry like between the two of you?
It's awesome. I love playing with Emma. We struggled a little bit with doubles at the beginning of the season, kind of figuring out pairings and stuff like that. But so far, the pairings that we have now has generated a lot of wins. And I love playing with Emma. She's very energetic. She's very loud on court, which I love because I get very nervous in doubles more than I do in singles. So when she's very loud and energetic, it helps to calm me. And she's amazing. She's fun. She doesn't get mad if I miss, or if she miss, she just like brushes it off and like, let's go, come on, we can do this. She's a grad student, so she has been around for a while. So when we serve, I kind of just tell her, you tell me what you want to do and I'll do it, kind of thing. And I trust her with that. So I love playing with her so far.
You know, all the student athletes I get a chance to visit with, you know, on the podcast, whether that be football players, basketball, softball, baseball, whatever the chance, you know, whatever the sport may be. I have the chance to ask them about athletes that have inspired them throughout their careers. Who do they try to model their game over? Who are they watching YouTube clips of to try to like incorporate that into their own game? For you, you know, growing up, you know, playing tennis, watching tennis, of the pros out there, you know, female or male, you know, who's a source of inspiration for you?
I would have to say is Roger Federer. I think was a big source of inspiration for me. I think that mainly came from my coach growing up because he modeled everything after Roger Federer. I think he was like his idol. He was definitely a role model for me, and I definitely tried to mimic my game style to his. And then also Serena Williams, she's just a powerhouse and seems like she can do it all. So I loved watching her play. I think I honestly loved watching all players. I feel like they all have different things, but those were my two idols for sure.
And those are two household names, you know, that even a very casual tennis fan is going to know.
Yeah.
I want to talk some about, you know, the student part, student athlete, biochemistry major, certainly not an easy one. So, what is it ultimately, you know, you're striving for when it comes to what you're studying and the career field you want to get into?
That's a very good question. One I've been continually asking myself. I'm not 100% sure what I want to go into. I think I want to go into the medical fields, whether or not that is going to medical school, going to nursing school, or thinking about becoming a PA, which is a physician's assistant. I think anything around that area is what I'm striving for, but I know I want to do something with medicine. I just don't know the concentration of that yet.
All right, before we wrap things up here, I have to bring things back to your family a little bit, and that being a hockey family. Yeah. So you're from Calgary. Are you a big Flames family?
Yeah, we watch the Flames. Yeah.
I can name drop one Flames great for you because my hockey knowledge is limited. Jarome Iginla.
Oh yeah.
Iginla. So were you guys a huge fan of his?
Oh yeah, we loved him. He was one of the best players we have seen in a long time for Calgary. I loved as a kid going to hockey games. We'd get tickets here and there, and we would make such a big fuss about it. It's a very big hockey town, and everyone loved the Calgary Flames. And yeah, my brothers play hockey. My dad played hockey. So we would watch hockey every night pretty much.
Yeah, and I do remember, Jarome Iginla, and the great runs that they had, back in the mid 2000s or so. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned your dad played hockey, and I also and Kelly Damphus, our university president, is also from that part of the country. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're aware of this, but he played hockey as well, and he was a really good goalie and wanted to pursue it professionally. Had you had the chance to talk to Kelly Damphus about any of that?
I haven't, no, but I will bring that up next time. I knew that he played hockey, but I didn't know he was almost wanting to go professional.
Yeah, so now you have something to talk to him about the next time he visits the tennis program. So, Well, hey, Emily, this has been great getting a chance to talk Texas State tennis. As I said before, we haven't had any of the student athletes from the program on here yet. You've been representing it really well. We'll be looking forward to following the team the rest of the season. I know you're playing, really well as of right now. You've won 4 in a row. Big match coming up against New Mexico State. So good luck then, and thank you so much again for joining us here for this week's podcast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
You got it. Well, that again, Emily Niers, sophomore from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, joining us in the States Up podcast, talking about Texas State tennis, hockey, and a few things in between. Well, that's going to wrap up this week's States Up podcast. For Emily Niers, I'm Brant Freeman. As always, reminding you to keep your States up, and we'll see you next time.